Ben Simmons returning to Philadelphia. You would think this could be a messy situation in the locker room with some of his teammates, but 14-year pro Antonio Daniels thinks otherwise. Hi, everybody. I'm Daniella Bruce here with a Locked On Now Insider Report. Joining me now is 14-year pro and our NBA insider, Antonio Daniels. Antonio, let's get to it right there. I mentioned Ben Simmons and re-entering the locker room. He's back in Philadelphia now. How are his teammates going to accept him? And from your experience, what's going on in that locker room?
Well, from my experience initially, I think it will be a little awkward. I think that's unavoidable. That's unavoidable because of some of the things that were said in the offseason. But I tell you what, Daniela, locker rooms are very forgiving. They're fragile and they're forgiving, both. You know, and a lot of what was said in the offseason. Now, when you have an opportunity to walk back in that locker room, look guys face to face, look guys eye to eye, and put some things behind you, guys are different. You know, I understand how we operate out in the world where it's difficult to forgive somebody and it's difficult to move on when the goal of a team is for the better good. When you are in the championship fast lane, I think that initially it may be a little awkward, but guys will actually get to that point where they'll make that call. You know, they'll make that call. They'll sit and stay after practice and have conversations, you know, humble conversations. You know what, man, I said some things about you I shouldn't have said, and I want to apologize for that. Guys can put that stuff behind them quickly and move on, get back on the floor, get back to high-fiving each other, communicating with each other, and going to win basketball games. I think when we start talking about how awkward it may feel, when it starts to go above the locker room, when it starts to go to Doc Rivers or it starts to go to Daryl Morey, that's where I think it may feel just a little bit awkward.
Well, you have a player who has requested a trade out of Philadelphia and said he would not return to the team this season if he didn't get one. Fines start to pile up, and he decides that he wants to return. Now, you say you might be able to mend things with your teammates. You probably will be able to mend things with your teammates. But with all of the outside noise coming in, is this a distraction at all heading into the season?
Well, you know, I think it's a distraction heading into the season, but winning cures everything. Right. It's a distraction right now because there's nothing going on right now but training camp. That's it. You know, they haven't opened up yet. But let's hypothetically say the Philadelphia 76ers get off to a 6-1 start. Are we talking about the fact that Ben Simmons requested a trade, or are we talking about how seamlessly that he fit back in with that team?
Right.
So I think a lot of how the narrative moving forward with the Philadelphia 76ers and Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey has to do with how they start the season off.
Well, Doc Rivers might be helping that narrative in the fact that he has openly welcomed the fact that Ben Simmons is going to join the team again. He wants him back on the team. Just how much will that narrative help bring the team together?
Well, you know, the thing is, I think a lot of guys understand there's no more star-driven league than the NBA. One player makes a huge difference. We've seen the LeBron effect, where a team is in the finals and LeBron leaves, and then that team becomes a lottery team. You know, this and how the Philadelphia 76ers look right now is a completely different basketball team without Ben Simmons. He knows that. Doc Rivers knows that. Ben Simmons knows that. Joel Embiid knows that. This Philadelphia 76ers team with Ben Simmons and with Joel Embiid, with these guys skill sets not complementing each other very well, they still finished first in the East last year. Still. You know, it still took Atlanta 7 games to eliminate them. That's when everything started because that was an upset. No one expected that. So, you know, you realize how good that this Philadelphia 76ers basketball team can be. You eliminate Ben Simmons from the equation, they're no longer in the championship fast lane.
Yeah.
You add Ben Simmons back to that equation, you're in the championship fast lane. The question then becomes, Daniela, what Ben Simmons are you getting? Are you getting an engaged Ben Simmons? Are you getting a Ben Simmons whose thought process is getting back to what this team was? Or Ben Simmons that understands that they tried to move me, I want to be moved, I have 1 foot in and 1 foot out?
We'll find out which Ben Simmons we are getting very shortly here. He has taken his COVID-19 test and is in the process of rejoining the team. So definitely going to be an interesting couple of weeks for him. But let's talk about perhaps the biggest critics in Philadelphia, the fans. They can be tough on their teams. They can be tough on their players. How are they going to react to Ben Simmons when he takes that court in Philly for the first time?
That's a great question. Man, that's a great question. And one, honestly, I can't answer. I have no idea. We don't know how someone is going to be received. Some people may think, you know what, it's good to have him back because he's giving us a better chance to get back into the championship fast lane. Some of them may remember some of the remarks that he made. And the thing about fans, man, they are about loyalty. They are about loyalty. They are loyal to you, and they want you to reflect that same loyalty in return. So when Ben Simmons says, I don't want to come back there again, and then you hear chants in Philadelphia at some of the other venues and some of the other events about Ben Simmons, that's a great question. And honestly, that's something I'm very, very interested to watch how it plays itself out as well.
Hey, you said it earlier, winning can cure everything. So if he does mesh well with the team, I'd imagine fans might be able to forgive him as well.
Right.
But we'll see how that plays out too. So let's say Ben Simmons does end up getting traded at some point this season. What team do you think he ends up on?
That's a great question as well. I don't think we know because, it seems as if Daryl Morey is waiting on one guy. He seems like he's waiting on one guy. And that one guy, number 0 out in Portland. There have been numerous trade offers for Ben Simmons, but Daryl Morey is waiting on that guy. He's waiting on that guy to say, well, you know what? I don't want pennies on the dollar for Ben Simmons. If I have an opportunity to get rid of him, and I do choose to get rid of him, I'm getting rid of him for a guy that is going to put me and even propel me forward. So you've heard Sacramento. You've heard Portland, but you haven't heard Damian Lillard. It's been more CJ McCollum and Covington and some of those guys. You've heard San Antonio mentioned. So I don't know. It seems as if Daryl Morey is waiting on that guy. So now the thing to watch is not just the Ben Simmons situation in Philadelphia, but also watch because of what Damian Lillard said last year about Portland not having enough. Right now, he is all in, and he said it. Damian Lillard, I am all in here in Portland. But what happens if the Portland Trailblazers don't get off to that start that Damian Lillard would like them to? Are we having a different conversation come November and December about Ben Simmons now for Damian Lillard?
There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of different factors that could go into what ultimately happens with Ben Simmons this season. But thank you for joining us for this insider report. This is a story we'll definitely be following.
Thank you, Daniella.
From insider analysis to local experts, check out your local Locked On podcast for more. Locked On, your team every day.